I read 7 books in May. Here's what I read, what I rated it, and what bookmark I used with it or would have used with it. First up, I read You Belong Here. I don't even remember what this book is about because it took me almost all of April to finish it. I finished it like the first week of May. I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads, but after doing some reflection, I would give it probably 1.5 because again, I literally don't know what this book is about. But the redeeming quality was that I used this cute bookmark. Love her. Then I read Strangers by Bill Burden. I used the fish bookmark and this book was phenomenal. I don't rate memoirs, but this book was amazing. It's probably gonna be my top 5 of 2026. It's about this woman who went through a really traumatic and horrible divorce. And it's kind of her story of it and her like redemption story. And I love her and the way it was written was beautiful. And I have very high standards for memoirs. Memoirs are like my all-time favorite genre of books. And this was like top tier. Then I read Broken Country. I kind of feel like I'm late to the game reading this. I gave it 4 stars. It was a really sweet read. I also used the fish bookmark for this, although I could have obviously picked a better match. I just was lazy and took it straight from Strangers. It's kind of like a love story, but almost like a love triangle. There's a little bit of drama. There's a little bit of tea. There's a court case. It's really good. I would actually really recommend this. And then because Strangers got me on a big memoir kick, I read Brain on Fire. I used this bookmark, which is actually now sold out. It was about this girl who lived a completely normal life up until she was like 22, 23. And she basically had this like strange episode. It was a neurological episode where she doesn't remember what happened. It was completely like out of body, was not acting like herself. She woke up in a hospital and she's basically her recollection of that time period. She's now pretty much back to full health, but really jarring story because she was completely healthy and then just like out of the blue, her brain was misfiring. This is also on Netflix or one of the streaming platforms as a movie, and I will absolutely be watching because this book was really freaking good. And then I read The Wedding People on my Kindle. This was the most underwhelming book, most disappointing, upsetting book that I've read in a long time. I gave it 1 star. And I think the cover deceived me greatly. I do judge a book by its cover, guilty, and I thought it was gonna be really good. It was like so dumb to me. Sorry. And if I did read it physically, I would have used my tomato bookmark because I think the book sucks. Tomato. And then I listened to Homeschooled. It's a memoir. I listened to that on Spotify and it was really interesting. I'm upset. I think the reason I love memoirs so much is because I'm very fascinated by people who just lived a different life than I did. It's basically about this guy and he was raised by a kind of really like a little bit crazy mom and she was like obsessed with him and didn't want him to grow old. She was like a crazy overprotective boy mom basically. And she didn't want him to go to school because she wanted him to spend all of his time with her. So she homeschooled him, but like homeschool is a very loose term. They like he did not get a proper education because she was not like prepared to educate her son. She just wanted to spend time with him. It was an interesting read for sure. Like I'm very fascinated by stuff like that. I would recommend listening to it too. I always like to hear memoirs from like the POV of the author. And last but not least, I read Tuesdays with Morrie. I have had this on my TBR and on my bookshelf for months and months and months and just never got around to reading it. And I'm really bummed. I wish I read it sooner. It's so sweet. This was just a really sweet, wholesome book. Like I could see myself going back and rereading this. I'm gonna be honest with you though, I didn't cry the way that everyone was like, when I posted I was reading this, everyone's like, oh my God, grab your tissues. Am I heartless for not crying? It was so sweet, don't get me wrong, but I will be naming my firstborn Morrie and I love him to death. I unfortunately used the fish again because I got lazy, but going through my stash, what I wish I used was this. Because this matches and I just want to have coffee and croissants with Morrie, you know? So anyways, that was a very successful May for me. It makes up for reading 0 books in April and I'm very excited for June. Let me know what your favorite and least favorite read was of May and let me know what you plan to read in June. See y'all next month.